Today I'm going to be talking about what podcasts I'm listening to at the moment and how they can help you to improve your English. Now for each podcast I'm going to talk about what they're about, what level they are, how long they are, and how they can help you to improve your English. Now I do have a penchant for Irish podcasts because, I don't know, it helps me feel kind of connected to Ireland. I'm not living in Ireland at the moment, so listening to Irish podcasts makes me a little bit nostalgic for home. But I'm only including one Irish podcast in this week's video. And for a little bit of administration, you can find the links to all of these podcasts, plus the vocabulary explained, plus the transcript and a little bit of a vocabulary quiz in the PDF of this lesson in the description below this video. Okay, so the first podcast is the BlindBoy Podcast. This is the only Irish podcast I'm going to be talking about today. Hosted by BlindBoy of the band Rubber Bandits. This guy's a singer, a writer, a poet, and it's an eclectic mix of a podcast with comedy, interviews, and short stories as well. And he does what's called a hot take. A hot take is his version of his opinion on a social topic, but based on a lot of research. So this is his main source of income, this podcast. So he puts a lot of work into researching the topic. And so it's really, really interesting how he formulates his opinion. Now, because of the advanced vocabulary in this podcast, you probably need a B2 level and above, so upper intermediate or intermediate and above, to really take full advantage of this podcast. But he does speak in a slow, very clear and deliberate way, so he's also quite easy to understand. And that's why I recommend it, because you can listen to a good story, you can hear all the words and, be entertained at the same time. So it's well worth a listen. I highly recommend it. Each episode lasts at least an hour. The next podcast is TED Talks Daily. TED Talks are like mini presentations that are recorded on stage. And I really like this podcast because it's a variety of different topics. You can go down through the list and pick whatever topics interest you. There are also a variety of different speakers from all over the world, so you can hear different accents. But I would say it's predominantly the American accent. Some talks are more difficult than others, so I would say you would need a B1 level and above to really take full advantage of this podcast. And as I mentioned, these are practiced and planned presentations. So the speaking is normally very clear and very deliberate and not too fast either. So easier to understand than a normal conversation. And the times range between anywhere from 4 minutes to 40 minutes. Next is the Coffee Break English series. Now, I actually listened to the Coffee Break French series and I love the presenters and I love how they really clearly explain the vocabulary. And I even try and mimic the speakers. There's sometimes the short stories and I try and mimic the person who's talking because it really helps me to improve my pronunciation in French. So you can do the same in English. In the English version, the lessons are short, about 10 minutes, so you can do it in your lunch break. And the English is clear and slow because they're trying to teach you English. So it's perfect for anyone who has a lower level of English. And so the earliest episodes of this podcast are A2 level, so beginner level. And the more you go into the podcast, the later the episodes are. So the most recent episodes will be more intermediate, upper intermediate. They're already on season 3. So season 1 was beginner level. Season 2, more lower intermediate, upper intermediate. And season 3 is intermediate to advanced. And you will join Mark from Scotland. Don't worry, he's not difficult to understand. He has a lovely Scottish accent, and he speaks to native speakers from all over the world. He speaks to Australians, Canadians, Americans, British people. So yeah, it's a great way to learn about the different accents as well. I hope you're enjoying the podcasts. I have 2 more to go, but just before we go back, I wanted to tell you about my Fluency Club, which helps you to become a more confident English speaker. We have multiple conversation classes a week. We have a fantastic community of motivated English students just like you. We have a self-study course that you can do in your own time, which breaks down real conversations into all the grammar and vocabulary you can get from it. And you have access to me to help you improve your English as well. So it really is a one-stop shop in helping you get to the next level of your English. I would love to see you there. There's a link in the description below. All the info is there. Okay, let's get back to the podcasts. Now we're jumping straight back to advanced podcasts with the Harvard Business Review podcast. The Harvard Business Review have multiple podcasts on a whole range of different topics. And as you can imagine, it's centered around business. I especially like the Women at Work podcast, but there are a lot of other podcasts as well dealing with how to be a better manager, how to do better in your career, business in general, work topics, a whole range of different topics. So if you are in business and you want to improve your business English, this is the podcast for you. The pros to this podcast is that you will learn language in context. They're often conversations between 2 or 3 people, so you will learn a lot of phrasal verbs and native English expressions. And the great thing is that on their website, they also have the transcript available for you, which is very handy because this is high-level language. It's more for upper intermediate to advanced listeners. The speakers are intelligent and well-spoken, as well as being inspirational. The cons is that you might have to listen a couple of times. It's advanced vocabulary and, it's not the easiest, even though a lot of it is American English, which is easier to understand. I know many of my followers are B2 level and above and are interested in business. And if this is you, then you will love this podcast too. The episodes are around 30 minutes each. Last but not least is the Anything Goes podcast with Emma Chamberlain. Now we're going to do a complete 180 from the Harvard Business Review. Emma Chamberlain is actually a YouTube superstar. She's very young. I mean, she's in her 20s and she just became an absolute success on YouTube. I think she has 11 million subscribers now. But the reason I am recommending you this podcast is that she speaks about her life. It's everyday English. She made her fame and fortune vlogging, just taping her daily life basically. So she uses basic language in her YouTube videos, but her podcasts are often more reflective. She thinks about things a lot more, even though, yes, she does talk about her life. She does talk about things that are going on in her life, but she speaks very eloquently actually, and she knows how to speak. She's intelligent, and yeah, the topics may or may not interest you. They may seem mundane to you, but especially for my younger followers and people who subscribe who are in their 20s and 30s. I'm in my 40s and I listen to it. I think she's great, but yeah, it's just easy listening. But you also do learn everyday vocabulary as well. She might talk about what's on her mind, about philosophy. She might tell some stories about something that happened 10 years ago. So it's really open what she talks about. The length of the podcast ranges from 30 minutes to 1 hour. Okay, that's it for me. And don't forget, there's a PDF with the transcript, with the vocabulary explained, with the links to the podcast, and also a little vocabulary quiz for you to do. Link in the description below. See you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. Oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below if you have any other suggestions of podcasts that you listen to. Thanks and take care. See you soon.